after God, country, we talk about the people who are supporting us, right, Vivian? Can you flash our partners and members, please? These are special partner institutions. I want to give special attention to multinational corporation who has donated Bernie up, without whom we're nothing. Then the next slide, of course, is with the special corporate members. RI Chemical with the Carloses and Bounty Harbor Ventures with Mr. Paredes and Mr. Calapio. And then here are our members. And these are the core. And from there, we emanate like I had with the octopus tentacles. Okay. So let's now go to the introduction. Right, Vivian? Right. Okay. First of all, we are very pleased and honored, and thanks to Bernie, who always gets the outstanding people, to have with us Dr. Aletta Concepcion Yniguez. She says biological oceanographer, but more than that, okay. She's one of the guys I've seen. There's something called 10 outstanding women in nation service towns. You know, they're kind of, you know, really seasoned and accomplished. I think this woman's seasoned and accomplished, but she's really young, 45 years old. I'm glad to say that the board used to be everyone over 65. Now everyone's below 45. So we have the young, I'm the only Jurassic element there. But because of that, we've expanded. And I think it is your generation that can really propel our country forward. As you may have seen in the description, she'll talk about quite a few things which she will, you know, discuss with you. But I'd like to give you some of her credentials. She's a doctorate from the University of Miami, in America, of course, in marine biology and fisheries. She's a professor at the University of Philippines Marine Science Institute. She is with the scientific steering committee. You know, we say that we do too much top of the line thing. We need science driven. And she's in the science steering committee, not only for national, but regional and global focuses. So that science is not science for science sake, professor, but it will address, for example, harmful algae blooms and the coastal ecosystem health. She's also a recipient of the prestigious L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science Fellowship. So actually, the main thing, however, about her is that her heart, you know, combined with her brain, which is really accomplished, her heart to serve our people. So I'd like to start by saying we've asked Dr. Aletta Yniguez, and she doesn't mind if you call her Aletta, to actually give us a brief background about her life, because we want to connect between forums. And it's nice for us to know where they're coming from, 5 or 10 minutes. And then she'll do a presentation. When she does that, she'll keep in mind two things. Number one, she'll give us a contact number before the forum started. She's kind enough to give us her number, and you can call from all over the world because it's free now, right? To get direct access and advice. And secondly, more importantly, to give us how we, the audience here and around the world, what we can do, not just to learn, but more importantly, what we can do, because that's what our departed chair said. Your job in the forum is not just to give knowledge, but to use that knowledge for poverty eradication and employment and countryside development. So we'll ask you to do that the last part, right? So Aletta, please, a few minutes, 5 to 10 minutes about your life, how you got into this, a personal touch, then your presentation. At the end, what we can do to help you promote that, because if it stays in this room, that's not what our departed chair wants. He wants us to spread, and of course, a contact number. So without much further ado, we are pleased and honored to bring you, thanks to Bernie, Dr. Aletta Concepcion Yniguez. You have the floor, Aletta.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak here and to share and hopefully discuss more things. And so good morning, everyone, wherever you are, and hopefully more later with us, whoever will watch the recorded videos. I think I'm really excited to have this opportunity, because I think this is very critical at this, especially with this time and age when we need to get more focus on our oceans, right, in the Philippine seas. So for me personally, I was my background is actually I'm a BS biology. I was a BS biology student at UP Los Baños, and ever since, even before high school, I was actually interested in the environmental science aspect and also on the computer science aspect. So it was kind of a technology and environment intersection in terms of my interests. And so being in Los Baños allowed me to explore a wider range of ecosystems, both mountains and also oceans. But I decided to focus my pursuits into the ocean side because I thought at the time it was very, of course, it was very fascinating, and at the same time there was a lot of things that we still had no idea about in terms of our oceans. So on my side, it was after I graduated, I did actually work as a research assistant still at the same institute that I'm in now, MSI. But I was only there for about 2 years as a research assistant, but that was where I got my introduction into red tide or harmful algal blooms, and having kind of like the exposure into what its impacts were in terms of our coastal areas and in terms of livelihood. So, but from there, I knew I needed or wanted and needed to get my PhD. So that's when I went to the US for my PhD in Miami. I didn't want to be in a cold part of the world, so I thought it was as close as possible to the Philippines in terms of ecosystems and like climate. So Miami was one of my main choices, and thankfully I had an opportunity to get there, thankful from Fulbright and also the university scholarships. So there, it was definitely a different type of governance and in sectors in terms of the fisheries, more recreational really than anything, and tourism based. So it was a different environment, but of course I learned a lot living there for several years. And of course, apart from the formal courses that I had. And from there, I wanted to come back here because, of course, the Philippines, if you're a marine scientist, the Philippines is definitely a huge playground, so to speak, where there's so much still to understand. And of course, there's a lot to help out with, because there's so many information about our marine resources that we still don't really know, and that's also hindering us in terms of sustainably developing our resources. And all of the threats are there's a lot of threats for marine resources that I think would, if not addressed, would impact us in negatively in the long run as a country. So came back, and now back at UP, and from just a research assistant to now as a professor. And I'm really, I married my interest in technology and more ecological science, and this is what the work, I think, the body of work that I've been doing in the past, trying to bring in a more technological point of view in terms of the research and also the application for fisheries, and ensuring that the fisheries is more inclusive, more science-based, and ultimately more sustainable in the long run. So I think, I don't know, I mean, personally, 70, sir, I don't know if I'm the youngest Towns, but but I think there's getting that recognition was of course an honor, but I think it was just the tip of an iceberg in terms of there's so much else or so much still to do. And I've really as I go through my presentation, my thoughts are that these are just initial steps, really. And as I'm happy that the mode of thinking here is more on action, because definitely we need a lot more action going forward. There's a lot more steps to take. So I don't know, sir, kung meron pang introduction.
That's great. We're now excited. Please go ahead because we both like. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'll just share my screen. There we go. I hope everyone can see this. The slides. So the the title of the talk is a bit ambitious, especially the word revolutionize, but I guess that will be, I think, part of the food for thought. So it's essentially the concept is how we can use technology and tools to really change how we're doing ocean approaching ocean resource management in the Philippines. So I'm sure most of you are aware that the Philippines is an archipelagic nation. And I just want to emphasize more that, you know, as a country, our territorial waters is more than double our land area. And we are actually, I think, 5th in the world in terms of the longest coastline. So if we spread out our convoluted, folded coastline, we have a very long coastline, and about 62% of our more than 100 million population live in coastal areas, while the rest that don't live in coastal areas still rely on coastal and marine systems in one way or the other, right? So our ocean economy provides about approximately 7% of our GDP and employs about 5% of the Filipinos. So this is kind of outdated as of 2016. So the estimated value of coastal and marine ecosystems is about 960 plus billion US dollars. And so we have a lot of resources, and our seas provide us with a lot. And this plot here shows the percentage share of ocean economic activities from the National State of the Oceans and Coasts report. And essentially, about a large chunk of it, about a quarter of it, is due to coastal and marine tourism, followed by about 20% is for more on the food security, fisheries, and aquaculture. And then you have manufacturing at about 18.9%. And then ports and shipping is also a significant activity in the oceans for 11.9%, and then about 11% for electricity, gas, and water supply. And then you have mining and quarrying, including offshore oil and gas, and then public administration, defense, and construction. So we have a variety of ocean economic activities, and there's a lot of economic value plus the livelihood that's included here. I'm not showing you more on the what's not included in this chart, though, are, of course, you have your ecosystem services. So these are the services that marine habitats provide us naturally just by being there. So, for example, protection from tsunamis, protection from storm surges, like your mangroves, your coral reefs. Those are valued even more. And so those are more functions that are very critical for us, especially as we are experiencing stronger storms and different hazards that are quite critical as well from the services that the seas provide us. And another aspect about the ocean that's not seen as in terms of pesos or values here are the social cultural ties that we have, and the value we place on our oceans as Filipinos surrounded by the seas. So the Philippine seas, they are providing us much, but the problem is they are also experiencing a lot of stress. So there's a lot of issues in terms of over-harvesting these different fisheries products, the concerns about sewage and different types of pollution, including plastic pollution, also pollution because of putek sediments that are coming from unregulated development upland. So the upland is connected to the oceans. And then we have the unregulated coastal development as well. And of course, the overarching larger global issue of climate change. So yes, there are multiple threats that our marine systems are experiencing. Of course, we have to do our part to try to address most of these, especially the local ones that we have a better handle on. And then climate change is a more global effort. So, but these come in terms of the context of building up the Philippine blue economy. I'm sure you probably heard about the green economy a lot because of the we're more familiar with agricultural or land movement, but more and more, especially as an archipelagic nation, the concept of a blue economy is very important for us. And the blue economy is based on the 3 dimensions of sustainable development: economic, social, and environmental. And it seeks to promote economic growth, social inclusion, and the preservation or improvement of livelihoods, while at the same time ensuring environmental sustainability of the oceans and coastal areas. So this is a definition from the World Bank and the UN Department of Economic Social Affairs. And as you can see here in this diagram, this shows you that there's many different activities within the blue economy in the ocean and coastal areas, from renewable energy to smart shipping and fishing. But it notes that it should be inclusive based on sustainability principles and thinking of protection from climate change and conservation, apart from creating jobs and of course reducing poverty and having more food security or ending hunger. So in just a few years ago, the Department of Science and Technology, and including especially the National Academy of Science and Technology, they came up with what's called the Philippine Foresight, or Pagtanaw 2050, where is it's the strategic plan for where the Philippines can going towards the 2050. And I think the different countries like Korea, Japan, Malaysia have these kinds of foresight documents so that we can be more strategic about our development. So in terms of the blue economy, the Pagtanaw 2050 emphasizes that this is a critical approach for the country, and there needs to be investment into sustainable tourism, fisheries, resource protection, and management for a few aspects that they recommend. And so the coastal and marine development needs to be science-based and sustainable. So in terms of STI, or science, technology, and innovation, these are critical to support the blue economy, and they recommend, for example, developing technologies or innovating in terms of sensors and autonomous systems and data analytics models, and using artificial intelligence, as I'm sure more and more are becoming more familiar with these kinds of technological developments. So here, show where we hope to go, or at least we recommend to go as part of the Pagtanaw 2050, and on our side, as we see where development is going. So we have the ocean economy, which was a previous kind of just general economic activities related to the ocean, seas, and coastal regions, but we want to develop a blue economy, which is more conscious, like coupling the, as I said, promotion of economic growth with social inclusion and improvement of lives and livelihood and ensuring sustainability. There's a concept of, there's a blue economy plus, or a new blue economy, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in the US, the NOAA, which just emphasizes that to attain such a blue economy, we need to use technology, data, and information to catalyze public and private sector innovation and inform smart decision-making across all blue economy sectors. And I think some of the work that we're doing now is going towards, or attempting to move towards, this direction. So I'll present a bit of the work that we've started in terms of moving towards that blue economy plus, and in essence, the flow is we want to track the ocean state and all, use these kinds of data and information for analysis models that will inform eventually decisions or serve as decision support. So this is from ocean observation to information to analytic models and as decision support. So we want to develop or have real-time ocean sensors, which would automatically go to information databases, and these can then be used for analytics and useful models for whatever purpose that we need them to do. So for an example that I'll present is for mariculture. So of course, we know that with more mouths to feed and there's a declining trend in wild caught fish, we are turning more and more towards aquaculture or mariculture for the marine environment for food production. So more than half of Philippine fisheries now is from mariculture. It used to be a little less than half, more over a decade ago, but now it's more than half. And while the other quarter is composed of the municipal fisheries and then the commercial fisheries. And in terms of the production volume and value from 2012 to now, to at least 2021 report by BIFAR, the volume produced hasn't really been changing that much. There have been slight declines and then increase and then a little decline again, but the value has been increasing through time. But there are a lot of threats to the sustainability of our mariculture. So of course we have water quality threatening the shellfish or fish cages and so on, and which is due to pollution because of sewage and also metals or organic pollutants. But we also have harmful algal blooms or red tide, and then also a hazard related to mariculture is also storms that can damage these structures. So here the pictures show in particular water quality pollution concerns and also harmful algal blooms or red tide issues that affect many of our shellfish, especially areas, and also fish farming areas. So example is just in August this year, there were about 31 people who got ill in Capiz because of a red tide event, toxic red tide event, and killed one person. And in this figure here, this is the most recent shellfish bulletin that BIFAR issues in terms of sites where there's a shellfish shellfish ban. So you can't harvest, eat, sell, of course, and buy shellfish from these areas here, which have the toxic harmful algal bloom in ongoing. And then you have also, apart from the toxic blooms, you have fish kills, which can occur because of certain conditions, which I'll kind of briefly explain later. So these fish kills can occur in caged areas or uncaged areas, depending on the water quality conditions. So just to note that when I talk about harmful algal blooms, or when I say red tide, this refers to an increase in the number of microalgae that either harbor toxin and then accumulate through the food web, and thus you have shellfish that are toxic when we eat them. Or you have the other type where there's an increase in numbers of microalgae, but they're not toxic, but they do lead to the depletion of oxygen in the water. Essentially, they're suffocating the organisms that need oxygen there, and they cause then the fish kills or the mortality or death of other marine organisms that need the oxygen. So, of course, these events, these have big socioeconomic implications. They cause losses in terms of the harvest, and also the livelihood of the people are impacted. So how some of the work we've done have attempted to, we're trying to push towards more sustainable marine activities, especially sustainable mariculture. And one main, these points that I raise here are just, they're not exhaustive, but there's some actions that need to be taken to ensure more sustainable mariculture. The first one, of course, is the start, where you need to put these activities in appropriate locations or appropriate sites, and also select appropriate species for the mariculture farm. So when I talk about appropriate sites, for example, we're conducting an activity in Pagbilao in Quezon, where even before there's anything there, there's already different marine activities like tourism. You have your habitats like your coral reefs, mangrove, seagrass, and power plant, but there's no mariculture there yet. And the idea is, even before you put in your mariculture farms, you conduct a study to assess where they should be or they can be placed. So we, together with the stakeholders there, we're assessing which areas are viable for mariculture, or which areas should be protected, or which areas need to be allotted or is more appropriate for other marine activities. So appropriate marine spatial plans is important, number one. And then, of course, when these mariculture sites are established already, it's important to maintain the water quality, good water quality conditions, and because this will also ensure that the fish farms or the shellfish are in good condition as well. And so, in order to ensure that these systems are maintained, you do need systems to continue monitoring the water, the cultured species, and also systems to warn or provide early warning information for hazards such as harmful algal blooms and red tide. So what some of the things that we've been doing towards this end are, so I'm working with physics colleagues and also physical oceanography colleagues in the development of more cost-effective ocean sensors. We have, for example, here, Dr. Villanoy from the UPMSI developed this portable automated water quality system, which is a cost-effective ocean or water quality monitoring sensor system providing real-time ocean data with telemetry, meaning it's sending out the data automated in direct to the database or a server, and it's powered through solar energy. So what it's getting are temperature, how salty the water is, the pH, the oxygen level, chlorophyll, which is an indicator of your primary producers, or the plankton, microalgae, and then possibly other sensors can also be tacked on there. So the idea is that all that data, and then other data as well that others will contribute in terms of from their monitoring, can be viewed, can be accessible, can be visualized online. And we previously developed what we call as the hub system, which is an informatics system serving as a hub for environmental, biological, and model-derived information. This is focused on harmful algal blooms, such as data and models for fish kills and toxic blooms, in general water quality data. So this is the site for that. Right. We do aim to expand this for a more general water quality and ocean related database. But this time, this is focused on harmful algal bloom information and responses or models. So this work was developed with the support of the USTP card and also in collaboration with BIFAR. So in the system, for example, you'd have, so this is another type of sensor that was developed by colleagues from the Institute of Physics at UP. So the sensor would have hourly data. And so this is an example actually from the POQMS that I showed previously. So this was from November 24, temperature, chlorophyll, salinity, and other parameters. And you can just click on that, open access, and then you can see time series data, and you can also download that from the site. So what can you do with that data? Well, various things. You can analyze it for water quality, track influence of activities on the site, use it to assess why your production is less or there's an issue or not. And also specifically for our side, we wanted to use this for this particular application to serve as an early warning for red tide, like fish kills or toxic blooms. So we developed we have the database in the system in hub. You have the sensor data, which are all used to populate a machine learning or an AI model, which would then produce the probability if there's going to be a fish kill or a toxic bloom. So for example, here last year in May, we provided early warning for a potential fish kill in Bolinao in Pangasinan, and for the Bangos fish farmers. And so we informed BIFAR and the LGU, and then they helped to provide the information to the fish farms, and also help them to assess if they needed to harvest early or not. So that's one application of these kinds of system. But of course, in other countries, you can use these kinds of system, from the sensors to the analytics and modeling, to actually to make your production more efficient. So this is just an example for a shrimp aquaculture production outside of the Philippines, where you can use these kinds of sensors to monitor pond conditions in detail, and then have a system to analyze productivity based on the conditions and other factors. So that's for mariculture. We also have, we're also collaborating and developing tools for the capture fisheries, the wild caught fisheries. So of course, that's still a significant amount of source of food and livelihood for Filipinos, even though there are many issues in terms of overharvest and impacts of climate change or other threats. So now it becomes even more critical that you have a way to observe what's happening in the ocean, and these kinds of analytics and modeling system that can provide vital information on the status of the fish stocks and ensure sustainability. So, for example, we've developed a model to support sustainable fisheries for sardines, something like including with something applicable to small pelagic fisheries. And we specifically recently in a recent project, we were looking into the impact of environmental conditions and including El Nino and La Nina and climate change on the sardine fisheries. So, this was not, I thought it was a model. I guess it's not the video. It was supposed to be the video of the model, but this is just a screenshot of the model, so it's not going to be animated. But anyway, we were representing the sardines into specific locations, and this was focused on the Mindanao and especially the northern Zamboanga Peninsula area. And we modeled the sardines and how it interacted with how the water moves, its food source, and then where it went, or where the sardines, baby sardines actually went, and what that meant for stock recruitment. So based on that model, we saw that yes, climate change is actually having an impact in terms of the warming seas on the sardines. The sardines are feeling the warming seas, but also we were distinguishing that particular conditions like lower temperature, higher chlorophyll, or more sardines being retained in particular areas during El Nino compared to La Nina. So these kinds of information would be important. For example, same with, I think, agriculture, right? If you know El Nino or La Nina is coming, then you have an idea on what can happen to the crops. In the fisheries, these kinds of information are still very limited. So, for example, here we're still we've just seen this information, or we've just really been investigating these kinds of information, where during El Nino, it appears that for the northern Zamboanga Peninsula, it promotes increased sardine production, or higher, it's better for the sardine population. But La Nina it would potentially lead to lower sardine populations. But this is different for other parts of the Mindanao area. So it's opposite. So these kinds of information are still new for the marine environment. And we are hoping that these would now be useful in terms of managing the fisheries, depending on what environmental conditions are occurring. So I've talked mainly about mariculture and capture fisheries, but of course, other marine sectors would equally benefit from these kinds of tools and technology, whether it's alternative ocean energy, marine transport. So alternative ocean energy, for example, where are the modeling appropriate sites, observing what's happening there in terms of with sensors and automating processes so that it's more efficient in terms of how these systems are functioning. Your marine transport, where is early warning or for hazards, or assessing where routes are safer and more efficient in terms of carbon footprint. And then you have of course, coastal and marine tourism. So of course, you need observation and analytical modeling tools to assess where to protect the environment for coastal and marine tourism, how to develop in a more sustainable way as well. So I put on the slide again, and I think my point is that if we want to continue harnessing our rich marine resources way into the future, and also fuel growth and innovation, we need to be smart and sustainable about it. And in particular, I think some of the key recommendations or key activities that we need are to get to that kind of blue economy is to invest. We need, first of all, to invest more in science and R&D, both whether it's government or the industries, the various sectors. I mean, we see this in our developed neighbors. They have a large investment in these, and they do pay off. So, of course, in tandem with that, we do need to develop more scientists and engineers in these kinds of fields, because there's a limitation still in that. And this is also very important. There, close collaboration across the marine sectors and institutions. So from the government agencies to the academe, us, and also those who are involved in these marine activities, there needs to be a close collaboration, and I think that will really have a good payoff or a good be very productive and innovative in the long run. And of course, we need to enable an environment for innovation and not get stuck in the old ways of how we do things, especially if they're not efficient and especially if they're not sustainable. So I think that's it for me. So thank you very much again for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. What a nice presentation. And you know, it's very interesting because our Secretary of Agriculture is ocean-based, right? Fisheries, the biggest fish guy, ocean guy in the Philippines. And the reason we like him is because he has business sense. And if you talk about marine, we think that's the future, you know? I mean, going to old products, you know, we have 5 export products, the biggest ones. They account for 70% and they're all going down. And marine is the future. And so I'll just ask this question, then I'll ask the moderator, our board of directors, stellar member, Noreen Yang Ong, who incidentally is a key figure in a company that exports to 42 countries, and she has fishery products as well, right? And before I give it to her, I'll just ask the first question, and then she'll take over. She'll take over until 9. At 9 o'clock, I'll come back, right? Okay, basically, the question I have is this, because we're action-oriented. Incidentally, could you give us your phone number, please? Phone number.
Oh, it's 0977 809-2023. I can write it in the chat, maybe.
Yeah, in addition to that, because abroad they may not see the chat box, could you repeat it one more time?
Oh, it's 0977
Yes.
809-2023.
Right. Okay. 0977-809-2033. Am I correct? Okay. People around the world, she's so nice. Other people give their office numbers. She gives her cell number. Just to ask this question, because we're action oriented. You know, the problem I have, because I was in DTI and DA and House of Press, I've been all over the place. And I find that the science base is not used in this country. In addition, they don't talk to businessmen. Now, what I want to do is marry the science base with the business, right? Now, I just want to ask this question. You're so accomplished and all that, and so far, our staff goes to Vietnam and Thailand and all that. It doesn't go to business and government. And I want your wisdom to be used by us to help poverty, as our former chair said. So my question is, do you feel a need, from what you know, do you feel a need that the Philippine government business should use more of the information that you have in your institute? Do you feel there's a need for more conversation? What do you think?
Yes, for sure. Definitely.
For sure. Good. Then we got action going here, because we're afraid we're kind of useless to you. But I think we have some action. We're in touch with the people. I'm seeing the secretary today, etc., etc. I'm also in touch with the natural resources secretary. She called me up over the weekend, so I'm in touch with that too, right? Because God gave us our old age, but with our old age, well, frankly, we used to be all old, but now 50% is below 45 years old. And our board of directors, 8% all below 45, just like you. And our distinguished moderator is below 45. And she runs her I think her father is coming. Okay, so we want that very much, right? And basically, we want to connect. I'll call you after this because I have your number now. Basically, you feel there's a need for more communication. Tell us why you think that, what you've heard, so it will excite us, motivate us more. Tell us, and around the world, why you think what you've heard is that it is lacking. What have you heard that you feel it's lacking and we're not using it? Why?
Well, I think, I mean, I've recently, for example, been in touch with a few fisheries companies, and I think based on these kinds of communications, there's a gap in terms of the scientific basic foundational science that's needed for them to understand what's happening in the fisheries and in the capture fish, or the fisheries that they're trying to harvest, and then also for the mariculture, why the production is going south, so these kinds of problems, I think, need to be addressed by having proper scientific background, scientific information, and then going forwards and using these kinds of tools and technologies that are actually they're available in other countries. They're being used a lot in other countries, but we're not using them.
Not our country. Wow.
No.
Sounds familiar.
We're playing catch up, really. We're a long way.
We need you. Your God's gift to businessmen. Questions, are you also God's gift to government? Question, do you feel there's also a lack of information to government? You talk about businessmen. You think there's a lack of government from you to the government? You think that's also lacking?
Yeah, I actually work more with government agencies, so like BIFAR and also DNR partly, but so the LGUs, because they need these to put in appropriate policies, right?
Okay. Yeah, but there's a lack too, because usually what we do is scientists like you talk to low levels. When you get to higher levels, it gets more massive coverage and attention. That's what you want to do. Now, I'd like to introduce to you and the people around the world. It's the first time she's moderating, but she's been an active member of our board of trustees. Noreen Yang Ang. I could talk 1 hour about her accomplishments. I won't do that. So I'll just say that she's moderating. She has to leave at 9. You have to leave at 9:30, Aletta. At 9:30, I think the old people take over, which means me and other people. Okay, so let's go. Noreen, maraming salamat. Nandito po kayo. We can speak English because we're global, right? Noreen, take over the moderating, please. You can open the question. Go ahead, Noreen.
Yeah. Hello, good morning to everyone, and thank you, Aletta, for that very educational presentation. So, is there anyone who would like to ask a question to our speaker?
Noreen, just to let you know, our excellent person who assists us is Vivian, and she's told them to either press the button to raise your hand or just talk if no one's raising their hand. But she will guide you. She'll call the people as they come in. When there's nobody wanting to come in, then you can talk, because there's always Bernie and Robert Yupang, our best entrepreneur and all that. Okay, Vivian, can you start assisting Noreen? Can you call the first speaker, Vivian? She'll call the speakers because she'll look at the hands being raised, which you may not see, no? Vivian?
Hi, sir. Good morning po, Miss Aletta and Miss Noreen. Justin Osorio raised his hand po. Justin, please turn on your camera and kindly relay your question. Thank you.
Hello. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, Justin, go ahead.
Okay. So good morning po. I'm Justin Osorio. I'm a industrial design student from the La Salle College of St. Benilde, and I would like to ask, aside from monitoring data analytics, what do you think about in the advent of development of additive manufacturing like 3D printing? What do you think? Where do you think it stands in terms of assisting in your efforts to have the blue blue economy plus?
I mean, I'm not an engineer, but from my more limited knowledge and experience with that, I think that can be helpful, because that's that kind of like 3D printing would be something that can drive down maybe costs and the accessibility to developing instrumentation and equipment that are needed for these kinds of processes, like from the observation and all the way even to the processing for the mariculture and other activities, right? I don't know, but that's my sense of that kind of those kinds of technologies can help lessen the costs and make these kinds of equipment and features more accessible for us.
Okay. Follow up lang po with that, kasi currently I have a thesis, and it's relating with 3D printing and mangrove ecosystem conservation, and I was hoping to be able to consult with you in
Okay.
terms of how I would go about scientific background with it, and how I can verify efficacy and efficiency for it. So I'm hoping we will be able to get your email,
Sure.
so I can coordinate and
Yeah.
ask more later about it.
Okay. Yeah, we actually need
Sige.
more engineers, ocean engineers too, that are developing these kinds of things. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's an excellent point. Thank you for your generosity, Justin. You'll ask questions later. The guideline is from 8 to 9. You're limited to one question and short. Because after that, 9 to 10, you could have more discussion. But Vivian will do that. The guideline is one question only per person. Then during the open, the 9 to 10, there's more room for discussion. Right. Vivian, call the next one, please.
Robert now.
Okay, thank you. Yep. So I call you Aletta. Yes. All right. Okay. I know Jeannie Yniguez, but anyway, that's informal later. No. But anyway, yeah. Are you familiar with the Surigao, the Philippine Trench? No. You're familiar with that, no? That's around 6 kilometers from Surigao all the way to the ocean, and then 10 kilometers down. Okay, what do you see there?
Oh, have not been there, but
No, I mean, of course, in
yeah,
your research.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the trenches are, well, they still need to be explored a lot, because there is life there, and there is, in terms of seabed resources, there's potential, there could be potential there.
Yes.
But yeah, so the thing that the difficulty is, it's really
Deep.
challenging to go to these kinds of environments. I mean, the reality is we more easily go to Mars or the moon compared to our deep sea areas, unfortunately.
Do you have
Because-
any technology or knowledge about it? Because I'm helping a group that's going to help the country to, without touching the, dredging and all of this, is to get what we call this, the deuterium. I don't know if you're familiar with that, no?
Heard of it,
And,
yeah.
and I hope you're familiar with it, so we can talk about it informally. But do you know any valuable things there, like fish, corals, and so on and so forth? Or are you familiar? And do you have seen any equipments or so on, or group that knows about it?
I think more so there are ROVs, so that's more feasible. You have the unmanned, the remotely operated vehicles
Okay.
that can at least try to assess that. For that, I have colleagues, the geologists, and that are more familiar with that. I can actually refer you to them
Okay,
if you.
fantastic. Yeah. All right, we'll talk about it informally. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Robert. I think Noreen has got to leave soon. Noreen, can moderate the last remaining questions. Vivian, call the next one, please.
Sir Carlito Balimbing po.
Sorry.
Economio.
Sorry, something's wrong with my camera. Anyway, thank you very much, Alita. That was a very insightful
Thank you.
presentation. I'm also into research. I'm working here at the International Rice Research Institute. And before I forget, Justin asked about the applications of 3D printing in your field. Actually, I'm also working on 3D printer, but at the moment I'm also working on sensors, especially acoustic sensors. So just an idea to Justin, I think I saw one technology, 3D printing artificial reefs. I think that could apply to your field. So yeah, that's one idea for your research. But my question really is about the sensor that you're using. You mentioned about monitoring environmental condition like temperature, oxygen presence in the ocean, and many other parameters. My question is because I also experience diving, and I experience pollution in the ocean, in the seas, the very tiny plastics, microplastics. I think this is a big concern now to most of us here in the Philippines. And I'm wondering whether this could also be monitored by the sensor that you installed in the seas or in the oceans. Part of pollution monitoring.
For point of order, no? It's 2 minutes to 9. We end at 9. I'd like her to answer this after we end it formally between 9 and 10. In the meantime, to take advantage of Noreen, because she did say she has to leave at 9, I'd like her insight so it's captured worldwide. Noreen, before you go, we'd like to ask you from business point of view, what was your reaction to her talk and what are your opinions, etc.? And what do you feel in terms of applicability to business? Because she exports to more than 40 countries in the world, like fisheries and all that. I'd like her insights, though she's supposed to moderate. It's end already. It's 9 o'clock years ago. Give us your insight, then you can go, then we'll continue moderating, right? Maybe go ahead, Noreen. Give your insights that we end the session.
Yeah, so actually one of the items that we do export in around the world is marine products. So the marine products, we would have the dried fishes, the assorted, the different kinds and different species of dried fishes. So yes, you would always have a problem with the raw material sourcing. That's one of the problems that we are facing. So sometimes we would have to resort to importing from our neighboring countries just so that we could be able to serve our orders. So I think it really is a need for our country that we should have like a sustainability plan, so that the industries, the agricultural, the marine, because that's mainly our raw materials, the agricultural and the marine products, which we are always having a problem with on the sourcing.
A few seconds left. Could you tell us what in her expertise could actually help your business? She has a broad range of expertise. What in her broad field of expertise can actually help you do business better and reduce poverty?
Maybe where to the places where there are to know which places there we can like grow, or we can have like make this fish, like for example this kind of fish, where we could be able to have it to propagate it or grow it.
Right, we're so weak in that, no sourcing. No, they say we can sell, we don't know what to sell. So we need Aletta. You have to teach us where to go and what to do, etc. Oh, Noreen, I have to be faithful to you. You said you to leave 9, so we'll let you go. Thank you very much. Next time you'll moderate more because you're too
Thank you, Noreen.
And not your
Thank you.
Tuesdays for map.
Yes,
Noreen,
thank you.
Thank
driver of
you.
business. Imagine 42 countries, my God. Okay, Noreen, bye-bye. Vaya con Dios. Okay, we'll end now and we'll have another half hour with Aletta. We end now with our formality. The mic will go off internationally and we'll go on. Vivian, can you tell us the closing remarks here? Closing remarks, meaning, you got this certificate of appreciation, all that stuff. Can you do that? That'll take about 1 minute. Vivian, can you flash the ending next seminar
Yes.
knowledge?
Before proceeding to the next portion, which is the next week's forum, may I share my screen lang po? Certificate of appreciation to Dr. Aletta Concepcion T. Yniguez for her invaluable support in the advocacy and promotion of agribusiness and countryside development, and for her commendable and unselfish services rendered to this foundation as a resource speaker given today at the 45th weekly online meeting 2023, given this 28th day of November 2023 in Makati City, Philippines.